Hi, welcome back to Outdoor Gear and Skills. I want to do a video on shelves I made last week. And we were so excited to jump in and get these going on Saturday that we didn't stop to take time. I had all my family helping me, wife and son-in-law, daughter and 2 sons, and didn't want to tax their patience and have them skip out on me. So we've got these built. Now I want to tell you what we did with these. So as we started doing this, I used the same kind of tools I always do. My DeWalt circular saw. I've had this thing for like 15 years, and since I'm not a contractor by trade, it lasts really well, but it's a great circular saw. I love it. My dad got me this Makita impact drill. I love it. The batteries charge really fast. I've got, it's a double drill set, so I've got 2 batteries and a charger. It works really well. I'm not very good when it comes to driving screws, so I've always got to use one of these sleeves. So I can't drive these in a long screw like this. It just really messes me up. So I always like to use this sleeve to try to get it started and go. I do a lot better swinging a hammer than I do with a drill. So this to me is invaluable. But I really like my drill, and it's got a flashlight on there, which comes in helpful when it's really helpful when I get into some of these dark spots. So I want to show you what we kind of did here. So we have 3 shelves, and we built these specifically so that 2 Rubbermaid buckets would go underneath. We put our heaviest buckets right there, and then we had our first shelf. So we measured this shelf so that we'd be able to cover that. Then I've also got like my gas cans, my air compressor, my car battery charger, some stuff under there that fits really well. Some of this other crap right here isn't staying here. I just threw it so I could mess around with some other stuff in the garage. But my dad helped me build shelves just like this in Utah back in like 2005, 2006. And they're really strong shelves, and they're fairly easy to build. And once he showed me how to do it, I was able to do it down in my basement. I did it in the next house we lived in. I helped one of my friends do it. So it's a really easy concept, but it's very strong. So my dad's really good at woodworking. My youngest brother, Kevin, is really good. I mean, he's fantastic woodworker. I am not a good furniture finished project woodworker. I'm more of a ugly, sturdy, very strong type woodworker. So this is right up my alley. I love doing it. I wish I could make an entertainment center or an armoire or something like that. I just don't have that skill set. So with these, I want to show you kind of what we did. So we had 2 ways we could go about this. And I kind of left it up to my kids. We could either build the first shelf and screw that in, and then we'd have to brace it, and then we'd have to go higher to put in the middle shelf, and then we'd have to put in the top shelf. That's kind of the harder way to go about it. You kind of get the easy stuff done first. We ended up putting the top shelf in first, then the middle, and then the bottom. So what we did is we built the box on the floor. So my garage door opener is right here, and I actually had to notch it. I kind of notched it the wrong way. I notched it and fixed it so that the braces on my garage door rails were out of the way so that we could have these right here. So essentially what we did is we used 16-foot 2x4s for the front and the back, and we made a long rectangular box. So we built the box on the ground, and we used 21-inch sections for our support beams. So what we did is we put one on each end, and we pushed against it, and we put 2 screws in here. And so I'm going to show you that in a minute, but we just dropped 2 screws on either side, and it made it really strong. And then we just offset these or put these in about every 2 feet or so. Doesn't have to be exact, so it doesn't really matter. But we're just putting in extra support for the plywood so that we can have some heavy things on our shelves. Then by putting 2 screws in the end, it really strengthens the supports and everything and makes the shelf really strong. So what I've got right here is 8 foots. So we did 16-foot box. 5 of them, lifted it up in place, and then I screwed this back board into the wall, into the studs. And then we put 1 or 2 support beams on here temporarily just to hold it so it didn't sag. So we just put those up there. When that was done, then we went to the next box and we did the same thing. So I actually put this support beam in right here on the end, and I put another one down here about second from the wall to just kind of hold anything. It doesn't need very much support, just kind of hold it in place. Then we were able to take the 16-foot section and slide it in through the board and then get that connected. The last one right here, we had to do it a little bit differently. We were going to put the shelf higher, but then we realized we'd have some wasted space right here. So what we did is we tied in to an existing 2x6 that was already on the wall. So it wasn't this one. This came down, I was about 54 inches short. So I threw up a board that I had out in the back. There was a 2x6 to connect it beyond what I needed. And then what I did was take this front 2x4x16 and I screwed in all of these supports so they were just kind of flapping right there. And then I took these braces or brackets right here. We got these at Home Depot. They were about 86 cents each, I think. And what we did was we screwed these into the wall or into our 2x6 just like this, because we weren't able to screw the supports from the back. So by putting these braces on and screwing these into the 2x6, we had the board hanging down a little bit, but we had our extra strength right there. And these are really strong brackets. They have an angle screw that goes in and then 4 screws into the wall. So that made it really strong. We bought extra braces and I threw them in periodically. If the board was just a little bit short or anything like that, we threw it in just to strengthen it up. So we held this in, got everything screwed in. It was a lot easier to do that. Now, one thing that we did is we purposely waited to put the plywood on top. The reason for that, we were able to stand here and hold these and be up inside without having to duck. Same with these. We were able to stand inside this rectangular box and hold everything while I went around and screwed in all the braces and got everything secured. Then we came in and we put the vertical supports where they needed to be. And we made sure everything was level and we screwed it in. Now the reason we went 16 feet is I could get a 2x4, or sorry, a 4x8 sheet of OSB or plywood, and I had Lowe's just cut it in half, and then it gave me 24 inches, which is all I was able to do because of my garage door. So that made it very easy to then put the first piece of plywood up top, and then the second, and then third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. I went in and for a lot of these things I was using 2.5-inch screws, sometimes 2 1/4. And then I went in and just screwed these in here to give this support. So these are really strong and I can climb all over these. You know, they're not going anywhere. They're very strong. And then I'm able to put a lot of weight into them. So this was everything we did with all of us together. We started about noon. We finished about 5 p.m. We had several of us working at the same time. Sometimes we had a couple people standing around until we had to lift or screw things in. Now, one thing that I did that I've kind of learned the hard way is when I had a 2x4 and I had to cut these to length, instead of measuring every 21 inches and a mark and 21 inches and a mark and another 21 inches, by the time I account for my saw blade, I start losing length on my boards. So what I did is we marked it, I cut one, then we marked it again, I cut it again. With going 21 inches and then the thickness of this front horizontal and back horizontal, 21 inches on these supports gave me 24 inches. By doing that, I was able to get 4 support boards out of every 8-foot 2x4, and then I had a little bit left over. I end up with a little bit, but that's pretty good for being able to do everything. So that's how we got this done on Saturday. We've got canning jars, we've got a wheat grinder that's pretty heavy, we've got a food dehydrator. This crap's gonna get out of here and go where it belongs. But this makes it so easy to get all my stuff organized. We had all these buckets lined up here. We had some stuff over there, so we were able to put all the sporting goods stuff and everything that was on this side over to here. So that's what we accomplished on Saturday. Okay, so last night we wanted to come add this extra shelf right here. I miscalculated, we had some leftover wood, and my daughter Sydney decided that we needed to build this shelf right here. It actually works out well because we were able to get some stuff out that's in this back storage room where we keep our bikes and other things, and my wife's going to put a lot of her canning and jars things back there. So the thing that we had to just be aware of as we were going to put this part and come in perpendicular to here and basically form an L or a V depending on how you look at it, is we had a vertical support beam all the way in the corner. So that means we were able to tie right into that. But I didn't want to get in there and have to do all these weird cuts and everything. So I took an extra piece of 2x4 and I essentially put it up against the vertical one so that it would be strong. And I went out, again, 24-inch wide shelf here. So I added this so it would be longer. Trying to make a union like this, I didn't want to start driving in screws at angles and all this stuff and weaken it or start chipping the wood out. So what I did is I took this longer section just like this, and then I took this brace and I put it on, and at the 24-inch mark, we just ran just under a 12-foot 2x4 all the way to the wall. So that really strengthened it up, and then we were able to tee squarely into this section. So I'm up here on my Werner ladder. I got this at Costco many years ago, and I'm starting to sweat because it's hot as hell up here. But I got this in, I think, 2005 or 2006. It was when we built these shelves originally in our house in Utah. And I love it because it locks in secure. It's really stable. It's very strong. It's kind of heavy, but it's very strong. And it's all adjustable and everything. So this has been a lifesaver. It makes it really easy to get up to shelves like this. So when we built this shelf last night, we were going to build the box. And because it was only 12 feet long instead of 16 feet long, figured it'd be easier. We could throw it up there. So I had 2 considerations when doing this. Number one, I wanted it to match this shelf height so that I didn't have this weirdness. And if I needed something on one shelf to spill over onto the other, it would be the same levelness. It wasn't going to have this weird gap. That was number one. Number two was my sweet pull-up bar right here, is that we had to be able to do pull-ups and not smash our head on these. So as it worked out, perfect height, still gave us some good height here. So what we did differently is we first measured the back horizontal 2x4. Like I said, just under 12 feet, it's short a couple of inches. And I cut it slightly long so it would be pretty snug. And then we thought, well, let's just put it there and, you know, screw it in, level it up, and we screwed it into the wall. Then we were going to put all the supports, screw them into this and lift it up. And after we measured and cut this, again, I cut it slightly long, just on the other side of the line, and it went in here snugly and it just stayed by itself, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. And then we just thought, why are we going to do that? That's in place. Let's just screw this in. So we screwed it in on the ends. We screwed it in right here. And then we didn't have to put any vertical supports on it. What we then did was just go in one by one and start screwing these in. So again, we put 2 screws in. So every place here you see 2 screws, that's where we've got one of these braces and support sections. And then we just took these brackets and we just stuck it on the back just like this on every one of these to really strengthen it up. So it took a little bit extra work. We're driving more screws because we're putting 6 screws in instead of 2 screws in the end, but it made it much easier. It took some more time, but my shoulder was really hurting. My daughter's back was hurting. It just made it a lot easier where we're not sitting there trying to hold this and drive screws in. So it was worth the effort to do that. When we were all done with that, we put, again, a piece of OSB, so 24 inches deep. So we put a full length there, and then we put the half section right here. Now, another consideration we had is right where the 2 sections of OSB or plywood match up. I want to be able to screw both sides of those into a stud. I want them to land on a stud just like you would with sheetrock if you're doing a wall. And so I wanted to be able to screw those in there. So as we laid it out, before we put all these supports in, we put the piece of plywood up here on both ends to see where things were going to hit. And what we found is if we put the long piece on this end, the union was going to have the support somewhere over where we would be doing our pull-ups. And we didn't want that. So we slid the full length down. We were able to put the union right here, and then we could purposely offset these supports so we don't come up and conk those trying to do pull-ups. So a couple of those things were really easy to think about ahead of time. Just lay the wood out and make sure that everything fit. Now, I didn't want to put a vertical support on here. This freezer right now is not even plugged in. It's going to move out here pretty soon. We might make a smoker or something with it. And I didn't want a vertical support. I sure didn't want one in front of the door that goes out into our breezeway to the backyard in the house. So we looked at ways to go up and tap into the rafters. One of the things I was doing, hand me another 2x4, please. So this is Jackson, my editor and camera assistant. One of the things I was doing was putting a piece of wood here, shooting it up into the rafters, and then just connecting it on a T so it would just sit on the rafters and help hold it. We were going to do that, except right here is one of the trusses for the roof over the garage, and I couldn't get one of these. Now in my head, I was thinking about, you know, the weirdness of trying to get stuff connected both flush here and flush there. You know, I don't want any of this. That's not going to be strong. It's going to be all kind of messed up. We had extra left of these things. So when I was in Home Depot, I overestimated on these purposely because I can always find a use for them. So we took one of these and we just measured it on the bottom and we ran it up into the rafter right here, into the truss. And then instead of, when we put all of these screwed in here, they would be set up like this. So what we did was flip it like this. So instead of it being this way, where it would screw into the board. We lifted it and we flipped it. Which way? We flipped it like this. So we screwed it in up here. So that made it really strong. In my head, I'm trying to figure out what I did. So I laid it out well, and I've got it tapped into here on both sides. Now, right now, I just threw some empty coolers, ice chests up here. So this stuff is really light, but I want it to be strong so that I can put heavier things up here when I finally get everything in their proper place. So to do this, this gave us about 120 square feet of shelf space. Plus it gave us about 32 square feet of floor space on the garage floor underneath this first shelf. So that really made it to where we can get a lot of stuff in there. I've just got, some things I said that are on there temporarily while I move things around. But it's very easy to get to things. I can just come to my ladder and grab the stuff up here. We just threw stuff that's pretty light up here. But it's very easy to get organized, and for the cost of lumber, screws, these braces, everything, this probably cost me about $280 to $300, and then this took us about 7 hours of time. We had several of us working, so it's kind of hard to figure out the man hours because, like I said, sometimes a couple people are standing around, but then we need all 5 people holding these so I can screw them in. But we were able to kick it out in, a day's work. So it was great. So I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear if you had any experiences. I'll finish up saying when you're using OSB, make sure that you put the smooth side up. There's a rough side and a smooth side. And what I did when I put these on, and I had Lowe's cut these in half for me, so I had a very precise cut. I made sure they were flush right here. There's a couple spots because of bowing in the wall and things like that where it's slightly off. I wanted it flush right here. I didn't want it to stick out because of these braces, and I didn't want to catch anything. I wanted it to look nice. And then on the back, it may be slightly off. And when I line these up, you might be able to see there's a slight gap there. It's so minimal, nothing's going to fall into that. But I'd love to hear your comments, what you think. If you've had any experiences building shelves or have any questions, hit me up. I'm not a contractor by trade, but like I said, this is something I love to do. I love the satisfaction of being able to get it done in a short period of time, climb all over it because it's so strong, and get my stuff organized. So thanks for watching our video. Have a great day.